Why do we fight? To protect home and family. To preserve balance and bring harmony. For our kind, the true question is, what is worth fighting for? The Fight Is All podcast.
There we go. It's always best to record this stuff because this is the best conversations, you know? Yeah, it's just my view is very, very different with regards to what I look for stretching. I don't look at stretching for range of motion. I look at it from a recovery regeneration point of view. I'm more interested in seeing how we can diminish the effects of trauma on the body through training.
Yes, yes. And I was just, this is one of the things that I wanted to ask you because a lot of people, a lot of people don't stretch. Most people don't stretch at all. But a lot of people in our circles, doesn't matter if it's combat sports or training in the gym, you see a lot of people stretching, but I'm talking from my point of view.
Nah.
Most people do it without any thought. You just see it, you think it's good for you, so you do it, and you never even stop to think about it.
No, a lot of people, what they do is they tend to see as we grow up, you myself, because I was an athlete, it's hard to believe, but I was an athlete once myself. I was a rower. We actually are made to think three main things that you need in sports. One is the endurance. So we look at developing our aerobic system, or even also speed endurance, the anaerobic, the aerobic system. The other one is strength, right? So a lot of resistance training, because we thought that that's what we need to do. And then finally, we think that let's add stretching in there, because this is how we were made to believe that these are the three main things. And there's more, but these are the three main things that we need to look at anytime we do anything with regards to training. You know, now, the thing with a lot of people is they do not have the concept of why they stretch. They think I need to stretch because when I went to school, in primary school, and we did phys ed, you know, we'd run around a bit, and then all of a sudden the coach or the phys ed teacher would say, okay, everybody, let's stretch. And we would do it, not even asking why we do it, you know. And my whole viewpoint has been, I look at stretching, and what I try to do is I try to bring a sort of make people think why we need to stretch. The most important thing as we age, you know, people have got to realize this. People that are fighters now and then they're very young, you're going to get old someday. Lo and behold, I got old, you know, but stretching and mobility becomes even more important as we age. So what is very, very important right now is we need to build a good sort of repertoire and knowledge as to why we need to stretch, you know. And my whole view has been that I look at stretching from a recovery regeneration point of view. I don't look at it from, let me increase my range of motion. I mean, that'll happen regardless of any form of stretch you do. But I'm more concerned about how we stretch. And when I mean by that, I'm talking about the four attributes of or the four parameters of training. We know their intensity, we know its duration, frequency, and volume. All that stuff is very, very important from a coaching point of view. And if you coach, and I'm sure you do, that you sit down and you say to your athletes, okay, we're in the beginning of our season, and right now we've got to focus on a lot of volume and low intensity, because now we're trying to build up our body to be able to handle the stress further on when the intensity is higher, and especially in combat sports. So when we look at those attributes or the parameters of training, my whole view has been about intensity. And intensity because how much force do we generate when we're stretching? And that to me was the most important thing. I don't care about duration. I could say to you, hey, I want you to stretch for 30 seconds or 60 seconds or 15 seconds. I want you to basically do it once a day, and I want you to do it 7 times a week. These are
Hmm.
quantitative, which means that they're very simple to follow.
Yeah.
I'm giving you these parameters. I want you to follow these. I'm more concerned about the qualitative one, which is intensity, because my intensity of training or my intensity of stretching will be different from yours, will be different from your colleagues. So let's really look at when we actually force a stretch, what are we doing to our body? And I know with regards to martial arts, because I've worked with GB Taekwondo years ago with a guy named Duncan French, who's now the senior vice president of UFC. I've worked a lot with gymnastics. I've worked a lot with basketball. Predominantly, most of my work has been in the NBA, and I've done some stints in the NFL, NHL, in the English Premier League. But the thing that really impressed upon me, the most important thing, is how aggressive people are with regards to stretching.
Yeah.
I mean, there are some amazing MMA athletes that could have a chair here, a chair there, and then they can
Uh-huh.
straddle, right?
Yeah.
That's great. But a lot of that range of motion has been developed through the concept of pain. And when we cause pain to our body, our response to pain is to protect itself. It's not to say, "Oh, this feels really good.
Go into it.
I'm
Yeah.
hurting, but I love it, and I want to continue doing it." Your body says to you, "Hey, there's something wrong here." Okay, now let's back off a bit. When I'm talking about my concept of pain, I'm talking about recovery regeneration. I'm not talking about training,
Hmm.
because it's very important to realize that anytime you do train, you are going to cause pain, you are going to cause inflammation, you are causing tearing to your tissue in order for you to be able to build up the tissue.
Yeah.
Okay? That's something that is known, and we know it. I'm talking about, I have damaged my tissue, I have caused trauma in my tissue. Now, how do I help that tissue repair? Okay. So I am not, and I'll tell you right now, I am not going to help that tissue repair if I actually cause pain every time I try to help with the recovery and regeneration of that tissue. And
Yeah,
that's the
because you're just
biggest.
gonna cause more pain.
Correct. Correct. Not only that, but we know for a fact that pain and inflammation have a one-to-one correlation. So anytime I cause pain, I'm going to cause inflammation in my tissue. Anytime I train, I cause inflammation, because an athlete is actually a study of inflammation. It's what they are. And how we as coaches manipulate the parameters, intensity, duration, frequency, and volume, in order to diminish as much effect on that body as possible. Now, that's an athlete that basically is, how do you say, tabula rasa, no issues.
Hmm.
Now let's throw in an athlete who has injuries.
Which is most athletes.
Correct. So what those injuries do is they cause a compensatory shift. So now I'm compensating for an injury. So I've injured myself. So you see where I'm going with this thought, because we
Hmm.
started off with, athletes in MMA who can do the splits, and I said that's because it's developed through a lot of pain. And the reason is that you're also, that increased range of motion that these athletes have developed through aggressive stretching is actually a buildup of scar tissue. Okay? Think about this. Anytime you have worked with an athlete or yourself,
Hmm.
and you've injured yourself, and you've had this amazing range of motion, and I'm not talking about people who are double jointed, because that's different,
Yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm talking about normal people. double jointed people are not normal. They're normal.
Yeah.
But the thing is, what I am saying is that if you actually continue with the aggressive form of stretching and you're building up scar tissue, right? As soon as you get injured, how many of your athletes have lost that range of motion that they've had?
Like that.
Exactly. Because a lot of that was developed through scar tissue. Okay? So in order for you to try to help an athlete that, and I've worked with Muay Thai as well, and I had a Muay Thai athlete, I forgot his name. This is years ago, 74 kilograms. He was the world champ from Richmond, BC, who could stand straight and bring his leg up to here.
Great
And
flexibility.
yeah, exactly. However, he had suffered a pretty bad injury and lost all that range of motion.
And he couldn't do it anymore.
Couldn't do it. So he came and worked with me, right? And I'm not only I not only teach people how to stretch, but I also developed a whole therapeutic protocol behind microstretching. So I'm hoping to get myself back in Europe, and I'm saying this to you and to your people that will listen to this podcast, that it would be great for me to visit Bulgaria and be able to not only put on a workshop, but teach people how to stretch properly. And maybe if there are therapists that are interested, we can look at probably giving courses or something.
Yes, that would be amazing.
Yes. Thank you. And I'm hoping I will not say anything yet, but there's something in the works in Europe. And when that happens, you will be the first to know.
Super amazing.
So now you have an athlete that's got a compensatory shift, and eventually they will recover. Okay. And then they're back to training again. Okay. But their body is somewhat altered a bit. Okay. So now they're not generating equal force and equal power. So let me give you an example. An athlete has an injury in their right knee. Okay. And he takes time off and he comes back. And again, the other thing too that's very, very important with injuries is also the age of the athlete. Younger athletes will recover faster. Older athletes, definitely. They don't recover faster. Okay? Because a lot of things have changed in our bodies as we age. So these athletes, the younger athlete will recover faster. And next thing you know, two things happen. One is they still have the mindset that I can train like I used to train before the injury.
Yeah, because I'm recovered.
Exactly. That is wrong. Because what they have to do is they have to slowly build up themselves again. Okay? So, and the other thing too is they are not really looking at how to structure a proper stretching protocol to help with the further recovery regeneration. Because the one thing that is affected, and this is so important for a lot of your viewers and your athletes to keep in mind, is their proprioception is
so how
somewhat...
they feel.
Sorry?
So how they feel the tension.
Exactly.
Yeah?
That is affected. Proprioception is basically the body's way of gaining, how do you say, an awareness of their environment. Okay? So what happens with a lot of these athletes is they lose their ability to feel where their limbs are or where their body is in that particular moment in time. So let's go back to our athlete that has that right knee injury. Okay. Now, he comes back or she comes back. We're all inclusive in here. He or she comes back to training and competition, but they haven't reestablished the range of motion that has been altered, and they haven't reestablished proper proprioception. Okay. So they're going and they're competing and they're putting a lot more pressure on their left leg, their left limb, in order to protect the right knee,
Yeah. From
left
habit.
ankle. Exactly. And they
Mhm.
create this new habit. And this new habit has affected or has been caused by a lack of developing proper proprioception because of the injury. Okay. So
Mhm.
that athlete will feel like, hey, I can still do things now. And again, we said the biggest mistake they do is they feel that they can go back to where they were before the injury.
Yeah.
And then they start training. And now the issue becomes as to when they're planting their right leg. So as they're on the mat, right? They have this skewed sort of view that they think that that right leg is on the ground, Stoyan,
Mhm.
but it's not really on the ground. So let's say I'm on my left side and I'm trying to do a move to my right side, and I think that my right foot is on the ground, but it's really not on the ground yet because I'm not really feeling it. And
Mhm.
then when I move, and as I move, then my foot touches the ground.
Yeah. It's like you're expecting to hit a step, but it's not there.
Correct. I like that analogy. Correct. So, one of the best ways to develop the proprioception is to really look at stretching, but to look at the intensity of the stretch. Because what that also does is it forces you to start, how do you say, thinking about your body. Okay? Because one
Yeah.
of the biggest problems we have as athletes is we think automatically because this is what's been ingrained and what's been developed in us. We need to create an automatic habit. So if somebody comes at me, I move out of the way and then I quickly hit them with my right hand or follow with my left hand, whatever. But that's all automatic.
Mhm.
But once you have an injury, you lose a lot of that, as we talked about. So the thing that people have to realize is if you actually want to help the athlete properly recover and regenerate from an injury or from training and trauma, is you have to stimulate the opposite of the pain, which is the sympathetic nervous system, because the sympathetic
Mhm.
nervous system has been designed in our body to basically say to me, hey, this lion is coming after me. I have three options,
Yeah.
run like hell, fight or freeze,
Yeah.
right? Fight, flight, or fright. Okay.
Mhm.
That is a system of action. It's not a system of actually helping recover, regenerate. What we need
It's
to
the
do is we
exact
need,
opposite.
correct. So the exact opposite of the sympathetic nervous system is the parasympathetic nervous system. And one of the most important things with the parasympathetic nervous system is it actually stimulates the relaxation response.
Mhm.
Okay. But not only that, it actually diminishes the effects of inflammation. Okay. So the thing that you have to realize is that there is a very important nerve in our body, and I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you. you know,
No worries.
I
No
know,
worries.
no, I know, but listen, we could have more podcasts. We can even bring, if you want, bring on other people. We could, because
Yes. Yes. Of
sometimes
course.
asking questions is very, very important because that way it makes me think. Because I am one to one right now, and I'm trying to sort of put together a comprehensive viewpoint as to why stretching is very, very vital for proper recovery and regeneration.
Mhm.
The thing you also got to realize, which is very important, is there is one nerve in our body, cranial nerve number 10, because we have 12 cranial nerves. It's called the vagus nerve.
Mhm.
The vagus nerve is very, very important because the vagus nerve, the anterior portion of the vagus nerve, so And I know that I'm throwing out some terms that athletes and some coaches may not know, but what I will impress upon your audience is if you're an athlete or a coach, it's very, very important for you to know these terms, because this allows you, with that knowledge, to develop proper recovery regeneration protocols. Okay.
It's important stuff, yeah.
Oh, it's important. To me, the key is knowledge. Remember, we started off this conversation as to, well, my coach or my phys ed teacher said, okay, everybody stretch. And okay, I'm stretching because that's something that it's habitual.
Yeah.
But let's remove that and say, why am I stretching? See? So the vagus nerve is actually the center for the parasympathetic nervous system. Now, one thing that's very important when you're looking for proper recovery regeneration is breathing. Those deep breaths. If you have an athlete that's been injured, look at their breathing rate.
Yeah.
You have an athlete that's just finished training, right? This quick, shallow breathing, right? But in order for the to properly stimulate the relaxation response of the body, you got to look at deep breathing. Because deep breathing, so when your diaphragm moves up and down, which allows you to bring in air or actually expel air, when the diaphragm moves up and down, it actually massages the vagus nerve.
So it helps with relaxing.
Correct.
Yeah.
So now, guys, now you have another clue why you need to breathe deeply.
Yeah.
My yoga teacher says to breathe. Yeah, okay. But why? Now you know why. Because you're actually massaging the vagus nerve, which then allows you to take that deep breath. And regardless, I don't know if, and I'm sure a lot of your athletes will relate to this as well as you can sit there and train, or you can sit there and sort of deep breathe, quickly breathe, and then all of a sudden your body's going to do one of these, right? That's the stimulation.
Kind of you need more.
Yeah. And that's the stimulation of the parasympathetic, which is the vagus nerve. Now, we're going back to intensity of stretching.
Yeah.
So, in all my research, I developed microstretching. In fact, I was the first person to be recognized and be sort of defined as a stretch therapist worldwide back in the early 90s. I developed the concept of stretch therapy and now the technique of microstretching. And now in North America, but I don't know if it's happening in Europe, but you see a lot of stretch therapy boutiques popping up where people go and they get stretched by another person. Okay. But that all started with me back in the late 80s, early 90s. Okay. Now, but the one thing that I have noticed and continue to notice is that people are still stretching aggressively, or they're being stretched aggressively by a therapist. Could be a physiotherapist. It could be a massage therapist. Again, let's go back to what we said. Anytime I cause pain, I activate the sympathetic nervous system. And the sympathetic nervous system is related to inflammation. So let's really look at this concept of what defines a proper intensity of stretching. Okay? Most people, when they stretch, if I look at a numerical rating scale of 0 to 10, 10 being I'm in so much pain I see God, and 0 being I'm not stretching. Most people will stretch around a 7 or an 8 on that scale because they think that, you know what, I need to stretch, but I also need to feel some discomfort and maybe some slight pain when I'm stretching because it's going to do something beneficial for me. It's actually doing the exact opposite. It's actually causing more damage. Remember, we're talking about recovery regeneration. Yeah. So
not about working out.
not working out, not working out. But when you're looking at increasing ranges of motion through working out, then you actually have to think about what I'm saying about stretching to the point of pain and discomfort, because that's wrong. Okay. So intuitively, when I developed stretch therapy and then microstretching, I said, you know what? We need to be very gentle with our stretching. How did I come across this concept? Because I was the patient. I have right here, I have a spinal fusion, C5, C6. I was hit by a car in 1989, and I was knocked out, and then I came through and stuff like this. And then I was an athlete. I was a track cyclist, and I wanted to compete at on Olympics. Don't know which one, but I was aiming for Barcelona. But anyways, but I've realized that that dream is not going to happen now. So I basically, as all athletes, we're driven because we want to get back on our bike. We want to get back on the mat. We want to get back in the rowing, in the rowboat and stuff like this, because that's what defines us. Okay. So I was the same thing.
Mm-hmm.
I was that athlete that basically, said, you know what? I want to get back to training again, and very hard. So I wasn't really listening to my body.
Yeah.
I was, pain. Give me some anti-inflammatories. Give me some of that, And I was taking those anti-inflammatories like it was candy, because I wanted to compete. Right? However, your body knows a lot more than you do. So my body said to me at one point, it said, enough is enough. So my whole left arm went numb, totally dead. And I couldn't feel it. I could move it, but I couldn't feel it. I couldn't feel anything. So then they did an MRI, and they found out that the disc in my neck, instead of protruding outwards, it was protruding inwards and touching my spinal cord. So I had to have surgery.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Coming out of surgery, I had to recover. So I was doing things like acupuncture. And I'm not saying acupuncture is wrong. I'm not saying physiotherapy is wrong, or massage. I'm not saying anything like that. But it wasn't working for me. Okay. So what I noticed is that I had to find a way and a mean to basically heal myself. And every athlete out there has got to realize that even though you have your therapist and stuff like this, you are a very big integral component of helping yourself heal. Okay. So, and all I did, and I kid you not, is I was lying on the bed in the prone position, so on my stomach.
Mm-hmm.
And then I said, oh, let me see what happens with gentle stretching. So now the thing is, you got to realize another thing we're going to talk about is stretch position, because a lot of athletes may be doing the stretching, but they're not placing their body in that proper position to stretch properly.
Mm-hmm.
So with me, what I did, I was lying down on my stomach at the edge of the bed. And instead of just having my head hang over, right, I actually then supported my head at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Here's a thing that a lot of people have got to realize, and I'm going to give this example right now so your audience and your athletes, your coaches, whatever, can sort of follow my train of thought. A person has a neck issue. So what do we do with regards to stretching our neck? What would you do if you were to stretch your neck?
If I wanted to stretch my own neck,
yeah.
Well, the usual thing is first,
Yeah.
this thing, pushing down, pushing up, and to the side. This is
Okay.
the only thing I'm doing.
Okay. Now, let me tell you something that's really interesting, because I developed a lot of these stretches not only to heal myself because I've got the spinal fusion, but I also worked with wheelchair basketball for the Canadian women's wheelchair basketball team from 2003 to 2008. Now, And basketball, wheelchair basketball, they actually have a lot of tightness in their chest because they're constantly using their upper body, you know. So when you look at an athlete, a wheelchair basketball athlete, and any type of athlete that's got some issues with their neck and shoulders, they're like this, right? Okay. Now, you said to me you did this, this. Now, your head weighs anywhere between 8 to 10 pounds. Okay? So when I tilt my head forward, is that a stretch in my neck? Or is that a neck tightening up to prevent my head from falling forward?
It's already resistance exercise.
Correct. It's an isometric contraction.
Yeah, yeah.
So,
and this is without any pushing, pulling.
Great. Now, if I really wanted to stretch my neck properly, what I need to do is I need to support my head. So this is good because I will show you. What you do is you tuck your chin in until you find a gentle stretch in the back of your neck, and then you support your head like this. The moment I support my head, it takes stress off my neck muscle.
Yeah, because you're not using it to support yourself.
The head. Exactly. No. That is a proper neck stretch.
You feel a little bit of
just very light.
Very small.
Light.
Very light.
As opposed to this, where you're feeling a lot of tension in the neck. Now, from this position here, the other thing you got to realize, which is very important with a lot of neck injuries, is a lot of neck injuries actually result with the chest muscles being very, very tight, which then pulls the shoulders forward, which then forces the neck up. You will never, ever see a person that suffered a stroke to be in a position like this. You'll see this.
Head back.
That head back position, and this is where even if people are listening that work in front of computers and stuff like this, that head back thing, what it's doing is it's actually shortening the neck muscles. So intuitively, you're thinking, I've got to lengthen my neck muscles. This is why you're doing this. Okay, now, let's go back to the neck stretch. So we went like this. So I tucked my chin in. As soon as I feel a gentle stretch, and now on that scale of 0 to 10, it should be around a 3 or a 4 out of 10. It should feel like putting your hand in lukewarm water. So I find that gentle stretch, and then I support my head. Come back to the neutral position, and then I rotate to the right side, tuck my chin in, and now I support my head like this. Now I'm going to get a gentle stretch on the left side of my neck, but it's got to be supported, you know? And then I hope now the thing I failed to sort of say is you have to hold these stretches for 60 seconds. So 15 seconds, 30 seconds doesn't do a lot for you with regards to helping you with proper recovery regeneration. So 60 seconds. And now you're going to say to me, hey, Nico, why not hold a stretch for 2 minutes, 3 minutes, or 4 minutes? There's a reason for that. Because even though the stretch is gentle, you got to realize that when you are stretching, you are actually creating a sort of tension in the muscle. And what does muscle surround? It surrounds arteries, veins, capillaries, nerves. So if you're holding a stretch for about 2 minutes, you are causing some ischemia. So you're basically blocking a bit of those blood vessels from, doing what they do, which is remove waste, bring oxygen, so on, and nutrients. So we found with my research is that 60 seconds is ideal. And there's been other research that's been done that has basically shown that when a person holds a stretch for 60 seconds, they actually increase their range of motion far superior than 15 seconds and 30 seconds. Okay, so
the duration is important.
oh yes, it is 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And then the frequency is important. So what do I mean by that? So I hold the stretch for a minute, rotate to my left, right, hold the stretch for a minute, then rotate to my left, hold the stretch for a minute, and then I repeat it 2 more times because I'm also trying to break a habit of pain in my body. So I have to create a new habit. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So stretching position is very, very important. Now, let's give another example. When people want to stretch their calves, what do? They
That's
go up.
exactly what I was thinking about when you were talking about position. Exactly last night evening, I was trying your calf stretch
Yeah.
that you were leaning against the wall,
And
and I
I've
remember
changed that. And I've changed that.
you have changed the position.
That's right. And I'm going to send you, I will share with you can you hear me?
Yep.
Oh, perfect. I will send you an email with a calf and a gastroc stretch that you
Mm-hmm.
can share with your audience. Okay.
Super.
Now, if we look at the calf muscle, and most people, when they want to stretch their calf muscle, Stoyan, what do? They go up against the wall, they put
Mm-hmm.
their foot up against the wall, or they're hanging from a step.
Mm-hmm.
Now, based on what I said about the neck, if I am now doing the same thing, what is my calf muscle doing?
Way
It
too much contraction.
because it's supporting my body.
The whole body, yeah.
Correct. That's not a stretch.
Mm-hmm.
When I send you those diagrams with for your audience, I'll even put together a quick, description of the stretch. When you sit down, which is what you're doing right now. See, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know. I'm not very good at Zoom because I could bring up the diagram as we're talking, but then I might lose you. So, but I will send you those diagrams so then you can share it with your
Mm-hmm.
clients, or we can have another conversation. We can go through a lot of stretches next
Yes,
time we
of
meet.
course, of course.
You know, when you're sitting down, your calf muscle right now is relaxed
Mm-hmm.
because it's not supporting you.
Yeah.
So from that position of sitting down, what you then do is you put something underneath the balls of your foot. Okay. Let
Mm-hmm.
me see if do
I
we
think you
have
wrote something about a book, using a book.
correct. That's it. I don't know what I could do then is share with you an article that I wrote for the IAAF back in 2010, which you can share with your audience. Okay. Because a lot of those
Mm-hmm.
stretches are in there.
Mm-hmm.
And then they'll start seeing it. So when I'm sitting down, now my calf muscle is not as tense because it's not supporting my body weight. And now if I put a book underneath the balls of my foot, I am now able to basically, how do you say, manipulate my lower leg. So by having my ankle at a different angle and my knee at a different angle,
Mm-hmm.
but making sure that my heel is down on the ground. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So, and then I can gently, if I gently feel a stretch in the back of my calf, that's where I hold it for 60 seconds.
Mm-hmm.
So I do my right side for
Always,
60.
you always want the heel on the ground.
Yeah, I don't know. Let me see. Let's play here. Okay, so this particular
Super.
one is for the gastroc, but we were talking about the soleus muscle. So let's go here. You see this?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Now, as you can see in this diagram, the person is sitting down, and
Mm-hmm.
number one refers to the soleus muscle, which is the big calf muscle that you see that's lower towards your Achilles tendon. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Now, so as you can see, the heel has to be on the ground, and the ball of the foot is on an implement, which is number 2, right? And what you have to do in order for you to be able to get the proper stretch is you got to basically play with the ankle height, the foot height, right? And the knee angle. Okay? So, and again, the height for the foot might even be I don't know, several centimeters, depending on how tight the calf is, right? But that's the key. But see, I am sitting down right now. So by sitting down, I am now, how do you say, I'm more able to control the intensity of the stretch. The other thing that is very, very important with regards to stretching properly is number 5. And I'm going to send you these diagrams. So I'm going to send you this diagram, and then I'm going to send you this diagram. Because to me, the one where you're doing the stretch that I had before where you're standing up, I said, forget that. I want to basically look at doing a proper stretch where the muscles are all relaxed. So these 2 diagrams I'm going to send to you. And the thing is, let me see if I can bring up something else, because there is something else here.
Yeah, now I can see it.
You see, microstretching principle number 1, body position. Okay. Most people will do a calf stretch as number A. Okay. But I often say, if I want to, let's go to this diagram here, because now it'll, there we go. So you're up against, you're supporting your body weight. Your calf is supporting all your body weight in order for you to stretch it. So what your calf is doing in this position here, it's an isometric contraction. So it's contracting to keep your body in that position. So if you wanted to stretch your calf muscle, you either go, the first stretch, B, actually deals with the soleus muscle, because the calf muscle is made up of 3 muscle groups. Well, actually, only 30% have 3 muscle groups. They have the soleus, the plantaris, and the gastrocnemius. Where most people, we have the soleus and the gastrocnemius. And the gastrocnemius is the higher muscle. So when people are stretching their hamstring and they lock their knee, they don't really feel a hamstring stretch. They actually feel a stretch behind the knee, and that's because the gastroc is very tight. So in order to do a proper hamstring stretch, this is another clue, you have to make sure that your knee is slightly bent. Okay? So the first stretch here, like I said before, is basically the foot is supported on an implement, a book, whatever it is, but you got to make sure in both stretches that the heels are down on the floor. And it's very, very important. And that way the body is supported. And now, in order for you to actually feel the stretches, you have to play with your ankle and your knee joint. Okay?
So that would perhaps be bringing the book or the implement a little bit closer to you, further from you.
Correct. There you go. Now you're starting to get into my thought processes. Okay? So these are the things that are very important. So I did a systematic literature review a long time ago where I was specifically looking at stretch intensity and body position. So what we found through a lot of the research, and we looked at the elderly population, athletes, and 2 other groups of people, which will come to me. And what we want to look at is, through all the papers that were written, most of the stretching was done to the point of pain and discomfort, but no one really looked at stretch position. So I said to myself, in order for me to properly stretch my muscle, I have to place it in a position where I'm eliminating any muscle contraction in order to facilitate a proper stretch. Got it? And that is very, very, very important to keep in mind.
That's what I was thinking about yesterday when I was trying the calf stretch, because I was trying to stretch without anything contracting at the same time, and it was very difficult. I was definitely doing too much intensity.
Correct. So now when you're actually sitting down and you're yourself and your people who are going to listen to this podcast or whatnot, and coaches and athletes, these are the stretches that need to be done. And again, we have to go back to what we're talking about. We're talking about recovery regeneration. We're talking about diminishing inflammation that has already affected the body because of your training. Whether you have an injury or not, when you're training at a high level, you're causing inflammation in your body because you are doing micro tears in your muscle. Anything that causes a tear in the muscle is inflammation.
Mm-hmm.
So in order for me to actually help my muscle recover and regenerate properly, I have to do the opposite. I have to do anti-inflammatory. Exactly.
Yeah.
Here, let me show you this one. So this stretch here is for the glute piriformis.
Mm-hmm.
And there's my hamstring stretch. Again, you see the body is supported,
Mm-hmm.
which is very, very important. So if anything, people that listen to this podcast, they should walk away with two important things. One is no pain during stretching and making sure that you place the body in a proper position where you're eliminating any muscle contraction. And those two things,
the one that you showed me with the neck was the first time I ever thought about a stretch this way. Like usually, if I don't get to probably like 80% like stretching the calf with my whole body, I don't even consider it stretching. Like the first time I read your description, which was you said it like placing your hand in lukewarm water.
Yeah.
I was like, what the hell does that mean? Like, how the hell is this thing a stretch? Like, I don't know. I just read it and it made no sense. I knew I was supposed to be like stretching lighter than I was stretching, but I couldn't make sense of it. When you showed me this thing right now that I tried with the neck stretch, I understood it because it doesn't feel like a stretch. It's you feel it a little bit very
it feels
gentle.
like you're exactly. It feels like you're sort of, I don't know, like gently pulling.
Yes. Now I understood what you meant when you said it that way.
Correct. Because again, the thing
Like
is
a stretch.
Sorry?
It doesn't feel like what 99% of people think of stretching. It doesn't feel that way.
Or 99.9% of therapists will stretch an athlete to the point of pain and discomfort.
Yeah.
Here, let me give you a classic example. I forgot her name again. Ilyana?
Yep.
Ilyana. So Ilyana says to you, Stoyan, you need to go see Nico.
Mm-hmm.
Why? He's good. He is so good that he will help you with your problems. So you're thinking, I've tried everything. Let me go see Nico. So you come into my clinic, and I'm a pretty big guy. And you're a big guy as well. I could tell by your shoulders. And then you get on my bench, and then I proceed to stretch you so aggressively that by the time you leave, you think, did this guy have a fight with his wife or something? I feel worse off. I'm in so much pain. What the heck's going on? Right? So you go up to Ilyana and you say, Ilyana, not only that, but now you're out 150, 200 US dollars, right?
Yeah.
So you're thinking, A, this guy took out all the stress on my body, and B, I'm now out of pocket. So you go up to Ilyana and says, Ilyana, this guy, he hurt me. But she says, Stoyan, listen to me. He's the only person that's ever helped me, So you're thinking, okay, I'll give him another try. You jump in your car or on your bike or whatever, and you're driving towards my clinic. What's the thing that's going through your head?
I'm preparing for battle.
Exactly. So by the time you get on my table, you're like, oh my God, exactly. You're
I'm a
tight.
little bit
You're
like this.
tense. You're tight. You're ready to fight me, right?
Yep.
Oh, this guy, I mean, but you'd love to punch me in the face, but you're thinking, I can't because this guy's a therapist. This guy knows what he's talking about. And you're ready to basically fight me because your body now is thinking, holy smokes, a lot of pain, sympathetic nervous system. What the hell am I doing? Not only that, I'm going to give this guy another 200 US. Now, let's flip it around. And you come to my clinic and I'm very gentle. And then you get off the table and you think, because a lot of my athletes that I've worked with get off the table and they say, Stoyan, what did you do? What did you just do to me? It was so gentle. I get on and I feel more balanced on my feet. And I didn't go through pain because I worked the proprioception system. I was very gentle. I can tell you right now for a fact that all my athletes, if I worked on them at, let's say, 9 or 10 or 11 in the morning, by the time they go to bed, it's the best sleep they've ever had. Why? Because I've activated the parasympathetic nervous system. I activated the relaxation response. So getting back to you right now, you leave my clinic and you're thinking, oh, this guy, I don't know what he did. He moved my body this way, that way. Very, very gentle. I got off the table. I'm feeling really good. I'm not in pain. You're more likely to come back to me and think, now I know what it is that Ilyana was talking about.
Yeah, and I'm more likely to be more relaxed the next
More
time.
relaxed and more motivated.
Yeah.
But then I also give you stretches to do at home on your own. Because I need you to continue doing what I have done, started in the clinic. Because I'm not responsible for your health. You are. So I got to give you the tools.
So you suggest doing them, I think, a couple of times a day?
Most of my athletes, I teach them to stretch before they go to bed.
Mm-hmm.
Why? Because I want to activate the parasympathetic nervous system. I want to activate the relaxation response. But more importantly, the only time your brain shuts down is when you go to sleep.
Mm-hmm.
So if I am activating my body before I go to sleep through anything that causes pain, my brain is going to be on.
Mm-hmm.
But if I actually do the opposite, where I am now relaxing, because you got to realize the one thing, it's not the brain that teaches the body. It's the body that teaches the brain. What are you talking about, Nico? It's called the embodied mind. In order for you to learn about your environment, you're not born with the knowledge that, if I'm crawling and I go into that corner and I hit my head, that don't do that because it's going to cause you pain. The only way you're going to learn about that is you're crawling along. Your mother and dad might say, Stoyan, don't do that. You're going to hurt yourself. But Stoyan looks at them and thinks, what are you guys talking about? I'm going to hurt myself. And next thing you know, Stoyan walks or crawls, hits his head on the corner of that table. And now all of a sudden, oh, that hurt.
Now you know.
Now you know. But you learned through your body.
Mm-hmm.
Because the body develops the synapses that the brain needs in order for you to know about your environment. So if I now train my body to do something gentle, and not only that, you got to also realize we talked about deep breathing earlier on. If I also at the same time do some nice deep breathing, and what do I mean by that? 6 breaths per minute. So I would take in, for 4 seconds, 1, 2, breathe in, 1, 2, 3, 4, and breathe out 6 seconds. Okay, that's 10 seconds times 6. So I'm doing some deep breathing because remember what we said earlier on, we're massaging the vagus nerve.
Mm-hmm.
So now which is very important. So if now I'm doing something with my body that relaxes my body, I'm going to get a better sleep.
Yeah, because you're affecting the brain also.
Correct. I'm relaxing it.
Yeah.
God, we talked a lot. Like it's almost an hour.
Yeah, and we still got a lot to talk about. We definitely gotta do second part.
Oh,
But
listen, what we should do, which would be
mhm,
great, is have more participants come on and we can chat.
yeah,
Now, the one thing I will tell your colleagues and your athletes listen, if you guys want to connect with me, Stoyan, so we'll give you. I'm on Instagram at microStretching. So Instagram at microStretching, and this week, so come Monday, I'm actually going to be loading up my website. It's been down for almost 2 years. So I've been
mhm,
working on it. So a lot of the stretches that those two stretches that I showed you, they're in there already. So for people to see, but I will send you those two stretches, and I will send you that article. Now, when I send that article to the people that you're going to have a read of that article, the second stretch is the one where a person is up, like Stoyan said, he was up supporting his upper body. Don't do that stretch anymore. You know,
mhm.
I also have to basically, I'm developing and I'm moving forward as well. So there are certain things that I sort of have questioned. Why do I still, even though I'm supporting my upper body, it's
Mhm.
still my calf muscles are contracting.
Yeah, I
It's
felt tense as well.
correct. We don't do that
Even
stretch
though
anymore.
I tried to relax as much as I could, but I still felt tense a little bit.
Correct. And this is good. So what I might do is just remove that stretch from the article, and that way people will have, and they'll have the two soleus and gastroc stretch. So you can connect with me on Instagram. You can connect with me on, well, my website will be up. So, or you can send me an email at microstretching@gmail.com. Again, Stoyan has all my information.
I'm gonna put them in
And
the description just in case.
yeah, um, it would be great to sort of get together again and hopefully in person too, because then we can,
Of course, of
you know,
course, that will be best of all. Best of all.
of course.
I
But
want to I want to thank you first of all for the
oh,
time. I want to wish you luck in general, with your research in life, but I want to wish you luck specifically if you have something coming up in Bulgaria, because that's gonna directly affect us.
it won't be in
So
Bulgaria, but it will be in a country close to Bulgaria.
yes, yes, anything close to us is like next door. So
Well, it will be next. But
super,
definitely,
super.
definitely, because I'm thinking, not thinking, I want Europe to be my base of support, and I want to be able to. I'm work in Europe because Europe, for some unknown reason, they're more receptive to newer ideas than North America is. Believe
Uh-huh.
it or
You
not,
think so? You think so?
I know so, I know so. I know so. But definitely looking forward to connecting again soon. Any questions you have?
Well,
Anything?
I'm looking forward to you sending me all of this information, because I tried to do like the routine, the stretching routine yesterday before I went to sleep. But again, I was just basing off of images, vague descriptions, and even though I was reading your words, I 100% did it way, way more intensive than I should have. And
Because
right
Mhm.
now, I'm looking forward to just doing it a little bit more correctly. Of course, I'm
Yeah,
not going to do it.
it should feel again like putting your hand in lukewarm water. That nice, this feels really nice on my body. That's what a stretch should feel
Yeah,
like. Because
yeah,
again, we're trying to diminish inflammation. Okay.
yeah. I encourage everyone to try. If nothing else, just the stretch you showed me with the neck.
Oh,
Again, this was the first time I understood your words. Like in lukewarm water, it was exactly that. It was very light, very gentle, exactly like somebody sprayed a couple of drops on the back of
Brilliant.
your hand.
Correct. And like Stoyan said, a couple of drops. But the most important thing, again, guys, when you're doing these stretches is get that deep breath. And the other thing that's also very important is make sure when you're doing the next stretch that you don't have your shoulders rolled forward. You got to open up
Mm-hmm.
your chest. The chest is very, very important with regards to sports because if my chest is rolled forward, it actually impedes my rib cage. And when my rib cage is impeded, I won't get that nice
Deep
deep
breathing.
oxygen in my lungs. So I need to open up my chest. So once I open up my chest, so even when you're doing this stretch, and I mean this diagram, as you can see, the diagram has been, you can see the diagram with the neck, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Yeah. As you guys can see, the chest has to stay open. Now,
Mm-hmm.
what's the stretch above it? This is the stretch that I recommend for people to do for opening up their chest muscle because you have a towel. So the dark blue is a towel where you
Mm-hmm.
place your spine on top of the towel. So don't use a foam roller. Don't use anything that's very, very hard because it'll put a
So
lot of pain.
it's a thin towel,
It's
like in a
actually a
narrow.
bath towel. A bath towel. Take a bath
Uh-huh.
towel, roll
But
it up.
rolled up. Ah, yes, yes.
Roll it up, bath towel, roll it up because what the towel then it allows your vertebrae to basically not be how do you say there the towel is not going to put pressure on the vertebrae which will cause pain. So what
Mm-hmm.
the towel does is it actually pushes your spine up. So as it pushes the spine up, it actually pushes the
It
shoulders
helps open up.
and opens up the chest. The reason
Yeah.
why this is done the way it is, because in order for you to properly get a proper neck stretch, remember what I said early on, you gotta stretch your chest.
Mm-hmm.
That's it.
But the stretch looks like you're not doing anything except laying down. Is that
Exactly
right?
is what you're doing. And you're using gravity to open you up.
Yeah, so the center
Ex-
part is a little bit more lifted up than the shoulders.
Exactly. Exactly. And you have
That's
a
very
low pillow
interesting.
underneath your head because if you don't have a pillow underneath your head and your head now is touching the ground, it's putting a lot of stress in the front of the neck. You
It's
also
gonna be
have
pain.
pillows underneath and this is perfect because this is now part of the podcast. So people have
Mm-hmm.
these stretches. And you have pillows underneath your knees because if you don't put pillows underneath your knees, you're going to anteriorly put your legs are going to, you're going to, most people have their legs extended, which means that it puts a lot of pressure on in front of in their lower back, in the
Mm-hmm.
lumbar area. And some people will say, well, what if I just basically brace myself without having a pillow there? Well, again, if you don't have a pillow underneath your knees, you're contracting your muscles to keep it
You're
in that
gonna be
position.
tense. You're gonna be
Why not?
tense.
Why not put a pillow underneath there?
Mm-hmm.
So you see, these are my thought processes.
You're trying to be completely relaxed while you're doing this.
Exactly. Because then you're going to also relax what's inside of this skull.
Mm-hmm.
And then you get a better sleep.
You completely change the way I think about stretching, like
Which
in
goes
general.
which goes back to what we said earlier on. The coach tells us to stretch. Why do I stretch? Because I have to. No. Now
Yeah.
you know what's the purpose behind proper stretching.
Yeah. So do
It's
you think there is any, how can I say this? Do you think there is any benefits to like the old way, intensive stretching? Because for me, I mostly think about it during gym sessions, lifting weights. I used to have a habit in between resistance training sets, not because anybody told me. As a matter of fact, I never seen anybody else do it, but just working out, for example, the chest. I finish a hard set and then I do some stretching in between the sets, not very gentle, but not very hard. because it helps me feel better. But it was definitely more intensive than
Well,
anything else.
again, there's nothing wrong with stretching in between,
Hmm.
as long as you're not looking at doing a performance, because we've known for a long time that if we stretch before an activity, we lose a bit of our ability to be able to contract our muscle during the activity, because
Hmm.
now we've actually caused sort of a laxity or a relaxation between the myotendon junction.
Yeah,
Now,
you're doing the opposite
exactly. Now,
contracting. Yeah.
my suggestion has always been that when you're going to do a stretch routine, do it before you go to bed or
Hmm.
do it 2 hours post activity, because then you are in more control. Because the other thing that can happen is if you're training your chest muscle and you're doing, bench press and then flies and then in between, you are also you're also fatiguing your muscle.
Hmm.
So you don't have as much of a control of your muscle because now there is some fatigue in there. So
Hmm.
the tendency for you to overstretch is that much greater,
Yeah,
right?
because you have much less control.
Correct. So my
Super
whole
cool.
point has been do it 2 hours post activity, because after you finished your training, uh, you want to give yourself some time for your body to cool down.
Hmm.
So the thing is, what's very important in between that time of finished training and starting a stretching, the 2 hours afterwards, is replenishing as much glucose and glycogen for your neural system and your muscles.
Hmm.
Now, a true state of a muscle is not a warm state. So, a lot of my patients and athletes that have worked with me, I don't say to them, well, I want you to get on that bike, Stoyan, and I want you to cycle for 20 minutes and then come and get stretched by me. No, 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 no. Because I am warming up my muscle. I'm increasing a little of the temperature of my muscle itself. And my muscle then has the, how do you say, not the ability, but I'm more likely to overstretch my muscle now because it's quite warm.
Hmm.
When my muscle is cold, I know how much stress that muscle can handle. So if you actually, before you came and saw me, and you actually did a lot of workout mobility stuff, and yeah, for your neck, you're more likely to go to a further range of motion because that muscle now is warmed up,
Hmm.
as
Yep.
opposed to what you did now, where you're like, it's not warm, it's cold, but now I have more of a control as to how far I can really go. Here's a classic example. You wake up in the morning, you're as stiff as hell. By the time you get to bed, you can do the splits. You know what I'm
Hmm.
because you've spent all day warming up your body. But your real state of your muscle is in the morning.
So when there's no warm up, no temperature, nothing,
That tells you how much range you have in there.
that's very interesting. So before bed is your best recommendation if someone was to do this regularly.
Yeah. Because the other thing too is you're more likely to get out of bed with a little more range, but it also preps you for your activities. Most of my athletes get stretched or stretch before they go to bed, and the next day they're ready for their training. Again,
Ah, so
it's
you
about
wake up less stiff.
less stiff and it's about recovery regeneration. Okay.
That's very interesting. I'm looking forward to trying this
I'm
like the
looking
whole.
forward to, yeah, I'm looking forward to, working with many or, having conversations with other people, because I think it would be good to bring Ilyana and all other people and have them listen to this podcast. And by the
Yeah,
way, if you can send that to me as well, I will put it on my
of
website. And like I
of
said,
course.
everybody, Sorry, Stoyan, for interrupting you. Like I said, everybody, my website will go live on Monday. So people can then go www.microstretching.com. And again, you can connect with me and Stoyan, or Stoyan's going to put the information to connect. I'm also on LinkedIn, but I'll send you that link, Stoyan.
Of course, we're gonna put everything in the description so people can find you, of course.
Please. Well, thank you for finding me. How did you have this conversation with Ilyana?
Because we recently started doing the podcast. Usually it was my coach Sebastian's podcast, and
Uh-huh.
he used to do this like many, many years ago, with a lot of people, mostly combat sports
Uh-huh.
coaches,
Uh-huh.
athletes, and all such people. But recently he just has a lot more work coaching us and his job, and he kind of gave the podcast over to me.
Oh, okay.
And we did like two, maybe three episodes. I think you're number three in the second season right now. And he, I don't know if you came up someplace in social media, but he remembered your meeting in Italy, and he said, "Hey, this is very interesting guy, very interesting research." And he sent me, I think he just told me your name, and I researched. I looked over some stuff about you, but they remember you, and they sent you to me, and I'm really really glad they did.
Oh, I'm really glad that you reached out to me. You know,
Of course, of course.
but like I said, I'll send you those two stretches with the description, and I will send you the IAAF article, which was written in 2010, gives people a little more of an idea of what it is that I do and what microstretching is.
Yes, of course. I know we couldn't possibly cover like everything in 1 hour, but I think
Well,
in 1 hour we have at least I'm gonna leave with a lot more information than I came in, and I'm looking forward to trying what you're gonna send me. But I definitely want to tell you that we're gonna do number two second part of the podcast, maybe bring others as well. But I think there is a lot more information that we could that is still
yeah,
left there. So
yeah, we haven't even touched my research. We haven't looked at the studies. Um, and like I said, when there's more people on, I don't do a lot of, I used to have a course online, but I I prefer to be in person. Why? Because I feed off that energy. When I talked to Liana and I think you said your other was he there? He was there in
yes,
Italy as well.
yeah, yeah.
Stefan, is it?
Sebastian is his full name,
Sebastian. Yes, Sebastian. When
but
I
short
actually,
Steph.
yeah, Sev. When I basically was there, it was so good because you feed off that energy, you look at people and you can see if they get it or not. I hate these two dimension stuff,
Yeah,
because I
when
could,
somebody can ask you a question much more, much
yeah,
better.
because then you can show. But anyways, I don't want to take up any more of your time. I just want to thank you, Sebastian, Iliana. I look forward to seeing you guys again. We'll probably do another 2D thing, but I look forward to seeing you guys in person because then we could basically put together a workshop and teach people what it is to stretch properly for a proper recovery regeneration.
Yeah, that's gonna be, of course, in person is gonna be the best of all. But thank you even for this short hour 15 minutes. This was incredibly insightful, and thank you so much for accepting the invitation.
Oh, I thank you, and I'll see you when I see you.
Of course. Thank you
Okay.
again, and be sure to send me everything you have.
Oh, I will. I will send it to you within the hour. The article and those 2 stretches.
Super.
Okay,
I
bye
thank you
everybody.
again, and I wish you the best of days.
Same. Thank you.